Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel. So it's been a while since I've done a DC review. I know some of you have been asking when the next DC animated movie review is coming out, and I've actually been putting those movies on the back burner for a bit, mainly because this has been my big priority in terms of DC at the moment. And for those of you who didn't see the title, or the thumbnail for some reason, this is my review for the Harley Quinn animated series, which debuted last year in November. So this show isn't even a full year old, and it already has 2 seasons. The latter one ended in June of this year, and I had no idea, actually. This series is pretty much another interpretation of the Harley Quinn character, except this time she's voiced by Kaley Cuoco, who you might know as Penny from The Big Bang Theory. And also this series is more adult, it's more violent, and in no way, shape, or form allowed for kids. I'll get back to that aspect a little later, but the bulk of the show revolves around Harley Quinn after she's broken up with the Joker, and she pretty much establishes her own crew, which contains Poison Ivy, Clayface, King Shark, Dr. Psycho, and the series is pretty much about their misadventures and sort of a will they or won't they relationship between Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. So I actually did not get around to watching this show until it was available on HBO Max. And there were a couple reasons for that. One, I didn't have DC Universe because this is a DC Universe originally, and I've said this a couple times, many times on this channel, I'm a Marvel guy in and out. So I just didn't feel fully invested to get DC Universe. And another reason why it took me a while to see this outside of not having DC Universe is that on occasion, I get sick of Batman. When this series was actually premiering, I was living in Burbank at the time, so I would drive by the Warner Brothers lot several times to and from work, and would drive past the big Harley Quinn poster that they'd have up there. It was actually positioned right next to the poster for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. And in the back of my mind, I was just like, it's another animated series revolving around Batman's villains. Okay, big deal. And then after Birds of Prey came out, because I love that movie so much, I decided to check out the beginning of the first episode of this series. And what I saw was something that I totally did not expect. I did not expect the characters to curse as freely as they did, specifically with saying fuck over and over. I did not expect the Joker decapitating a sea captain, taking his face off, and then wearing it as a mask. I didn't expect the Joker to throw a gas bomb that pretty much melted a bunch of rich bankers into puddles of flesh and bones. Like, it took me by surprise when I saw it. And then one of my friends at work told me about how great the show was, and how just clever and funny it is. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I've got to see this show now, because that opening scene, and based on what people have told me, is enough to get me invested. So I eventually waited until the series was available on HBO Max, binged it throughout a couple weeks, no, actually 2 months, because I'm a slow binger. And this show is goddamn insane. That's probably the best choice of words that I can use to describe this series. One great thing that this series does that I loved in Birds of Prey was give Harley Quinn the spotlight without her being chained to the Joker. It made me truly understand that, yeah, this character has the potential to break away from the Joker. Because growing up and being familiar with Harley Quinn through Batman the Animated Series and the various amounts of video games, I could never imagine her without the Joker. It's similar to Ant-Man and the Wasp. I can't imagine one character without the other. But with Joker, it's easy to imagine him without Harley Quinn, but it was always pretty difficult to imagine Harley Quinn without the Joker. And this series, more than Birds of Prey, which again I love, really painted into perspective that yeah, this character can be independent, and she's awesome when she's on her own. And in a way, I'm hesitant to say that she's DC's Deadpool because she's not meta or anything. She doesn't break the fourth wall, but she's very funny. She's very psychotic. She's got a lot of red in her uniform, so there's that. And it honestly took me a while to realize that this was Kaley Cuoco doing the voice. Because with The Big Bang Theory, I actually liked the first 2.5 seasons. Everything after that is Ugh. But she's probably one of the biggest highlights of that series. And it took me a while to really see that, yeah, this is Kaley Cuoco, and she is hilarious. She doesn't have the accent that you would expect from Harley Quinn, but she definitely delivers the zany attitude that the character is supposed to have. She's psychotic, she's insane, she's hyperkinetic. She's great. Like, she's great as Harley Quinn. And there are other great characters in this series as well. Poison Ivy, who was always one of my least favorite Batman villains, I just never found her all that interesting, is actually interesting this time around. She's funny, and the voice actress Lake Bell is... What I love about Poison Ivy is that she is almost the complete opposite of Harley Quinn. She's very calm, she's very relaxed, she doesn't lose her cool, and she's not insane like Harley Quinn is. And for some reason, the two of them make a great pair. And the dialogue between these two characters is just perfect. I mean, the dialogue in this series is actually pretty great. It never stops with the jokes. And there were a ton of jokes that just straight up killed me. I'll get back to the jokes a little later, but in terms of the rest of the characters, you have Alan Tudyk, who not only voices Clayface, but he also voices the Joker, Calendar Man, Condiment King. And Alan Tudyk actually makes a fantastic Joker. Like, he is truly psychotic and brings that same level of chaotic energy that Mark Hamill always gave that character. And in terms of Clayface, he is hilarious. Clayface is just this big, egotistical actor, and just the way he delivers his lines, just with so much gravitas, is... like, it kills me every time Clayface speaks. And then Tony Hale voices Dr. Psycho, and I love Tony Hale from stuff like Veep, Toy Story 4 when he voiced Forky. And as Dr. Psycho, he is also fantastic as well. To be honest, out of all the characters in this series, especially within Harley's crew, Dr. Psycho is one of my least favorites. And maybe it has to do with the fact that Dr. Psycho is a misogynistic douchebag here. Like, he just really hates women. And the very first scene involving Dr. Psycho is when he's battling Wonder Woman, and he calls her the C word. It's not a nice word at all, but when I say the C word, I think y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. And if that doesn't really introduce this character as being misogynistic and somewhat sexist, then I don't know what else will. But switching gears from one of my least favorite characters in the series to one of my favorites, Ron Funches, I hope I pronounced that name right, is King Shark. And King Shark is a character that I have only seen stills of, mainly from the Flash TV series, and I don't really know much about this character, but in this series, King Shark is just awesome. I mean, he's a half-man, half-shark. What's not awesome about that? And knowing that King Shark is going to pop up in the Suicide Squad, it just makes me even more excited to see what they do with that character in a live-action film. Because I love King Shark in this series, and in Season 2, there is one sequence where they parody Under the Sea from Little Mermaid. I won't say the full context of it all, just in case you haven't seen the series, but I tweeted about this when I was watching the series. I don't think I'll be able to watch or even listen to that song in the same light after what my eyes witnessed from watching Harley Quinn. But getting back to the jokes, there were so many moments in this series where I was rolling with laughter. And there are too many jokes to count in terms of what actually got me. But right before recording this video, I literally finished the last 4 episodes of Season 2. But to give you an emphasis on how bug nuts this series is and how cruel the humor can be, like, it's really black comedy. There's a sequence where there are 2 robbers who are holding up Wayne Tower. One of them is talking about how he wants to try to spend more time with his kids and how he wasn't that great of a father. So Harley Quinn comes busting in. She grabs a ray gun, shoots the criminal that's talking about his kids, but the gun does nothing. And then it shows the little stand that the gun was on, and it says Cancer Ray, and I'm just like, oh no, oh no. That's, in the words of one of my coworkers, that's terrible. I had to pause the episode for a second because I just, Oh, but like that's the kind of humor that this series embraces. And given how like mean-spirited, how dark, and how just screwed up the humor in this movie can be, and how violent the series can be as well, I am truly baffled that there hasn't been any animated nudity. But in theory, if there's a season 3, much like with Doom Patrol, it might be an HBO Max exclusive going forward. And given that it's HBO, I would not be surprised if they just said, you know what? Do whatever you want. You want to put animated nudity in Harley Quinn? Go for it. I mean, this series has people's heads exploding, people melting into piles of flesh, King Shark decapitating people, limbs getting torn left and right. Like, it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to go with animated nudity. All that being said, though, as much as I'm talking about the humor of the series and just how bug nuts hilarious it is, the series actually never forgets to be sentimental. As much as I'm enjoying the series for the comedy and the wacky hijinks, and also the fact that Bane in the series is pretty much Tom Hardy's Bane. Like, they pretty much just took the design of Bane from the comics and put in Tom Hardy's voice. And every time Bane talks, I piss myself with laughter. Much like with a lot of the humor in the series, but every time Bane talks, even when he's trying to be serious, I can't help but laugh. But getting back to the series and its dramatic moments, there are a handful of sequences where you actually care what's going on beyond the humor. You're invested in these characters, you really like Harley Quinn's crew, and there's some dramatic moments that are pretty effective. And whenever I'm not rolling on the floor with laughter at the jokes, I found myself on the edge of my seat invested in the story and wondering what's going to happen next. And speaking of what happens next, I won't spoil the ending of Season 2 just in case you haven't seen it, because believe me, you have to see it. But Season 2 ends in a way where if there wasn't a Season 3, then I honestly would be satisfied. But I hope there's a Season 3. I literally just finished this series and I want more. And there are a lot of people who have said, yeah, we want to see a Season 3. One of them being James Gunn, who's doing the Suicide Squad. And especially after Birds of Prey, I would love to see this series continue. I feel like there's plenty more possibilities to do, at least for one more season. Like, if we just get one more season of Harley Quinn, then I will be happy. Zack Snyder's Justice League, that could just screw right off. Like, you could take that and that terrible cartoonish looking dark side with you. Give us Season 3 of Harley Quinn. That's what people are demanding, at least what I'm demanding. Because between Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn, this is actually what I'm more interested in seeing. I mean, I'm excited for Wonder Woman 1984. The Suicide Squad looks like it's going to be more of what Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn brought us. And the Batman actually looks pretty damn cool. Again, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I could give a rat's ass about. But, again, Season 3 of Harley Quinn, if it happens, I'm on board with it. Like, I will binge that in a day if I have to. To be honest, there's nothing about this series so far that I actually dislike. I think all of the jokes hit perfectly. I love all the characters. The animation's actually pretty stellar. And there's nothing about it that screams cheap at all. And if nothing else, even if I might get tired of the character of Batman every now and then, this series just proved that I will never get tired of Harley Quinn. Because she's honestly more interesting at this point. Harley Quinn has really gotten to the point where she is her own independent character, and again, I want to see a Season 3. And in terms of an actual rating, because I don't really have many criticisms, if any, I would say get off your ass and go see this right now, except for the fact that it's a TV series, so theoretically you would just be sitting on your ass and seeing this right now. I mean, what better things do you have to do at this point? The world's still a hellhole, so might as well just catch this series if you haven't seen it. But again, be warned, I said this at the beginning of the review, this is not for kids. To any parents out there looking at this series and going, oh, it's a Batman type show, I can show this to my 2 Rugrats who are under 10 years old. No. This is the equivalent of letting your preteen kids watch South Park. What are you doing? Like, this is not Like, no, this is not meant for kids in the slightest. You want them to see a Harley Quinn type series, just, again, show them Batman the Animated Series and let them grow into the character of Harley Quinn. And then once your kids have grown up into teenagers and they've reached the rebellious age of their life, then they can see Harley Quinn, because this show is just truly bonkers. And again, if you haven't seen the series, please see it. It is just awesome. It's probably the best thing that DC has done in a long time. And there you go. That's my review for the Harley Quinn animated series, at least the first 2 seasons. Fingers crossed that we're going to get a season 3. And since we're on the subject of television, I want to say that I added a new tier to my Patreon page. For $3 a month, you can join me in live TV watch-alongs. It'll be 2 watch-alongs a week, and honestly, Harley Quinn is a series that I would love to do a watch-along in the future. Even though I've already seen the series, I would love to rewatch the series again, and with you guys if you decide to become patrons. So if you're interested, you can check it out at patreon.com and then become a patron. If you can't support the channel financially, then that's totally fine. Your subscriptions to YouTube are all that matter. But now I want to know what you guys think about the Harley Quinn TV series. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment, support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until then, this is the Real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one.